Hello and welcome to Steels Talk, the official Stocksbridge Park Steels podcast. I'm your host Adam Allcroft, and even though I'll probably say this every time, we have a brilliant episode for you. Today's guest is arguably one of Stocksbridge's greatest ever managers, Peter Rinkcavage. He had a 4-year spell at the club between 2003 and 2007. He broke several club records and won the Sheffield Senior Cup in 2007. He also gave a certain Jamie Vardy his debut, but what he says about that might surprise you, so you're going to have to listen to the end. We hope you enjoy this episode and hearing from someone who brought some brilliant times to Brackenmore. Hello Peter, well thank you for joining us on Steels Talk today.
No problem, Adam. Thank you for inviting me.
So we gave you a little introduction before. The thing I've noticed that you're up to now, you're the assistant manager of Kiverton under 10s.
Yeah. Actually, I've left that now. My son's got a bit older, that I've left it on there. By far my favourite role, it says, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. So what is it about that that's really made you fall in love with that side of the game?
To be honest with you, when I came out of management, I'd sort of had enough, and I was never going to go back into it at all. But both my children play, so I sort of got roped into doing the Kiverton under 10s assistant manager role, which I enjoyed. I'm now the manager of the Rotherham Girls under 13s.
Oh, fantastic!
And I've run Rotherham under 14s and 15 boys as well a couple of years ago. So I've sort of got pulled back in after thinking I were retiring to the golf course.
Oh, so football's just that thing, isn't it? It never lets go, does it?
It doesn't, and I was asked by the managers and other parents if I'd get involved, and it's hard to say no when you feel like you've got a little bit more to give back. So I decided to help with Rotherham, and like I said, I've run two sides with Rotherham now, Rotherham boys, and now I'm running Rotherham girls. So I'm really enjoying it, to be honest. It's obviously I've done it because of my own kids, but I've really enjoyed it. Yeah, it does pull you back in, and yeah, I've always managed or coached teams from being 16, 17-year-old. So it's something I'm more than used to.
So you got to tell me, what's easier to handle, teenagers or the Stocksbridge lot in the mid-2000s?
I'd have Stocksbridge in mid-2000s all day long of a teenager. Yeah.
Well, if you look back at your 4-year reign, you just look at the stats and it's absolutely incredible. So there was 4 years, 2003 to 2007. In that last season, you got the most points in club history. Still a record today, 76 points. You won the Sheffield Senior Cup. Are you really happy when you look back at some of those things of seeing how much success the club got?
Do you know, Adam? I didn't know that stat. That is unbelievable. I've got a few stats. I know a few because we broke a couple of records, to be honest. But I didn't know that one. Most points in the club's history. Not
even Gary Maier's promotion side got to 76 points.
Wow. I think, to be honest with you, Gary did a fantastic job. When I left Stocksbridge, I only managed Stocksbridge in the Division 1. And when the summer I left, it became Division 1 South. So I never actually managed in that league, that Division 1 South, to be fair. We were in the Division 1, which was a tough league. So to get that most points in that league, yeah, that's a good achievement. I didn't know that, to be honest.
Before that, you were the assistant at Gainsborough Trinity, I believe.
Yes, I was assistant manager at Worksop Town for about 8 years with Paul Mitchell. Then we moved to Gainsborough, just prior to Stocksbridge.
So how did it all come about becoming the manager of Stocksbridge?
Like I said, even when I was sort of a young lad at 18, 19 playing football, I still run like pro soccer under 11s, under 12s then. I've always run teams. I helped the Sheffield boys when I was 20 with Paul Bradshaw when they won English school. So I've always been in... The management coaching side was always my biggest interest. So I went into assistant manager at Worksop really early and then to Gainsborough. I was running a Sunday side, Royal Earl as well. We won, the league and cups and did really well. So it was just sort of a natural progression really. And an old player, Ian Askey, when the job came up, Ian Askey had a word with Alan Bethel and said, I might be, suitable for the job, let's say. So they invited me in for a chat. So I met up with Alan and the committee and was offered the job, I think, the day after.
So when you go into, that Stocksbridge dressing room for the first time, who were the lads that you saw there and what were you thinking of the squad as a whole?
To be honest with you, and this is no reflection on anyone else, it was an older squad. I think in that time and before it, or whatever, like I say, it's not criticism of anyone. I think it was sort of a club that a lot of players went to on the way down, being at the bigger clubs in non-league, and they're on the way down, and Stocksbridge was sort of the last hurrah sort of thing. So getting the age of the squad down was a big priority at that time, and to get younger, hungrier players. You know, we didn't have the wage bill to go and get the players who were already at the peak. We had to sort of shop a bit further down and look for players that might come through and become good players for the club.
It's amazing how similar that is when I talk to Ian Richards as the manager now.
Right, yeah. Well, Ian was one of the players that I had. I think I inherited Ian, to be fair. I think he was already at the club, but he was a good young player, really hard-working lad. I had some good times with Ian. Ian was one of them where he's a clever boy as well, and he's an intelligent lad, and if they'd have said he's a future manager in your changing room, Ian would have been in that top three, I would have thought would have gone on to manage the club as well as play for him.
So from those 4 years, what were your best memories of that time?
It's $1 million question, Adam, because we had lots. We had some really, really good times, and we had some difficult times as well. And a lot of things happened that were sort of out of our control that we had to deal with. I mean, the first season, we had a lot of injuries for my first season. We only finished 14th, which were really disappointing. And then the second season, we set off. We actually had a slow start to my second season, and there were, people were a bit concerned. But I signed Col Collie from Barra. I signed Danny Hansen, and we already had some really good players at the club: Steve Hawes, Andy Smith, Stefan Zoll, and a lots around them, Dave Cockrell, Ian Richards. We had lots of good players already there. And I remember talking to Alan, the chairman, and there was a bit of a concern about results. And I remember saying to him, if I could just fast forward you 3 months, you wouldn't be worried at all, because this team is ready to go. And I knew we were. And just shortly after that, I think we won 10 in a row in the league, which I believed at the time, I might be wrong, was a club record, 10 straight league wins. And it propelled us right up the league. And to be fair, from then we just sort of ploughed on and did really well. And at the end of that season, people forget this, but we had a fixture pile up. It had been a hard winter, especially up at Stocksbridge. And we actually had 14 games to play in 28 days.
I think I might have heard about this before.
Yeah.
Was this when when you had to go from the east to the west coast
we played Bridlington on Saturday and drew 1-1, and then on the Sunday we went to the other coast at Fleetwood Town.
Yeah, I've heard about this one.
It was 14 games in 28 days, whilst chasing promotion and playoffs and playing in the League Cup. We got to the League Cup final as well at the end of that. It all ended in disappointment because we lost in the playoffs on penalties, and we lost in the League Cup final to Kendal, and we went to Kendal. I've obviously been thinking in preparation for speaking to you, and we went to Kendal. We were as good as anybody in the league that season. I think without the fixture pile up, I think we might have got automatic that season. But we ended up in the playoffs. We went to Kendal, and we lost Col Collie. He got sent off a couple of weeks before, and was suspended for that game. And we lost Danny Hansen the week before through injury. So we went to Kendal in the playoff semi-final without, arguably, our best 2 players, or as most important 2 players. They were big, strong lads, and everyone sort of fed off them. And we went without them. Played ever so well. 1-0 up with 4 or 5 minutes left. Got to penalties, and we lost the penalty shootout. So that was a real sickener, because I think with Carl and Danny there, I think would have beat them and possibly won the final as well. And then we had the League Cup final as well, against Fardy Celtic, who were top of the league above, and we played them in the final. We were brilliant, and we lost 1-0. Really, really unlucky. So the season ended in disappointment, and it had been a cracker. We'd won us 10 on the trot. We got to playoff semi-final. We got to League Cup final. Well, I think you might look this up. I think we've got the record away win as well. We beat Bridlington 9-1 away on a Tuesday night.
Yes, I believe that might well still be the record. I think it still is still on the website.
I still think that's the record away win as well. So it was sort of a record-breaking season without ending up with anything. So that's the biggest regret of sort of my tenure, is that team would have beat anyone, on its day in our league and above. We were really, really competitive. And it was a big shame that we ended up empty-handed there, because that team could have sort of been in legend in Stocksbridge with a bit more luck on our side. And like I said, the 14 games in 28 days. And I was talking to a friend of mine today who's in football, and I was telling him about the 14 games in 28 days, and he said, well, he must have been playing sort of Saturday, Tuesday all the way in. I said, no, if you do the maths, it's every other day. It's 14 games in 28 days. We play one day, have a day off, then play the next for a month. It was absolutely, it was so difficult. And we come through it really, really well, but ended up just falling short. And we might not have done had we not had that fixture pile up.
When you think about that, 14 games in 28 days, do you sometimes look at these Premier League players that are saying, I'm playing too many matches and just think, well,
Absolutely.
come down to us and be travelling from Fleetwood.
So I actually, believe it or not, I was actually on Radio 5 actually rung up. I was on Radio 5 because they rung up and said it's never been at any sort of level, that sort of fixture pile up of 14 games in 28 days. And it was so difficult because we also had injuries, lads are working, we had suspensions and all sorts. So we just managed to get through that month. And we came through it really, really well, to be fair. So really, really proud of all of them. Like I say, we were very close to sort of really, really stamping his name, but we just fell short, unfortunately. I'll tell you one, and you might have heard this, you might not. We had Stefan Zoll, who was one of the best players I've ever had the privilege of working with. A fantastic player, Steph. And we played Marine. Stocksbridge fans remember this, those that were there. We played Marine in the semi-final of the League Cup, and Marine were top of the league above, and we were about fourth in our division, and we played them at home. And Ian's brother, Duncan, who was a lovely lad, great, good player, tenacious, managed to get himself sent off after 7, 8 minutes. So we're down to 10 men against top of the division above, and backs against the wall. And just before half time, Steph took about 4 on from the halfway line and slotted the pass keeper to be 1-0 up. So 1-0 up at half time with 10 men against a really good Marine team. And then second half, they pile pressure on us, and they got a corner. I remember saying to Jason, maybe my assistant, they left Steph and Zoll 1-on-1 on the halfway line. I remember saying to Jason, if we could clear this, Steph's in, they've left him 1-on-1. And the ball come in and Scott Lowe put his big left foot on it, put his foot through it to halfway line, and it went straight to Steph, and he controlled it, turned, and then everyone stood up and thought, here we go. And he took the kid on, took it round the keeper and scored. And we beat Marine 2-0 with 10 men. So that was a sort of character and team that we had that season. So, yeah, it was loads of memories for that season. That I've obviously sort of reliving, thinking about this, talking to you.
Well, that's the whole point of it. I hope to go down
That's
memory
right,
lane,
yeah.
some of those great
I'm sure
Stocksbridge
people
days.
were there will remember what I'm saying. Oh yeah, I remember that. I remember Steph doing that. I remember going to Forgy Celtic, going up to Kendal. It was really, really. I remember on the 10th win in a row, we won 10 in a row, and we went to South Wales to make it 11, and we drew 1-1. And we took quite a few fans with us that day. We were on a real roll, and we drew 1-1 and kept the unbeaten run going, but it stopped the winning run. But yeah, there are lots of great memories. I'm sure, like I said, the people who were there will also hopefully relive.
Obviously, the bit of silverware you can say that you brought back to Brackenmore was the Sheffield Senior Cup the following year. What was that run like, getting to the final and then beating obviously your old team and then eventually
it was really
new
good.
team Worksop?
The summer after the playoff defeat and the League Cup final, this is where it was a little bit frustrating, because that was the time for us to kick on. And as everyone knows about Stocksbridge, there is restraints, financial restraints, which I totally understand. I understood it then, I understand it now. You've got to keep a club running, that's the most important thing. But as a manager, you want it to kick on that summer. We lost Carl Colley, we lost Mick Goddard, who came in and scored loads of goals for us, especially on that 10-match run. Fantastic player for us. And we lost Danny Hansen to Gainsborough. So we lost some really good players that summer. Although we did really well the season after, we actually weren't as good a team as the season where we actually won nothing. But we went on a good run. We were really unlucky in the league. I think we just finished a point outside playoffs on the last day of the season, and then played Worksop, my old team, and then new team in the final. We were brilliant at Hillsborough, and we had Steve Hawes and Neil Redfern in centre midfield. We had some good players playing for us that night. And we won 2-1, and it was a great victory for us. And it was nice to get some silverware, on the back of 2 really, really solid seasons.
So yeah, Neil Redfern, actually, I've noticed, because he actually played a few games. It's not like when you see, the legendary former Stocksbridge players, and you go on Wikipedia and it says Chris Waddle who made an appearance.
Yeah.
Neil Redfern actually stuck around for a bit, didn't he?
He did. I spoke to Neil on the phone, and he came in, and he was absolutely brilliant. I loved working with him. I was like a sponge to him and sit next to him on the coach and ask him all questions about football and management and coaching. And he was really good influence in the changing room. I think he was 41 at the time. And then at Hillsborough, he played centre midfield on the big Hillsborough pitch. Played really, really well against a side. Works up with a Conference North side. They just got relegated, but they were a Conference North side. And obviously we were a Division 1 South. So there were 2 divisions between us, in essence, during that season. we scored 2 great goals and deserved to win that match. So that was a really good win for us. It happened to be my last game in charge, actually, but it certainly was a nice way to sign off.
Because you've had a few like big characters in your dressing room. You mentioned Carl Colley, and I've watched that Under the Cosh interview he did a few months back recently, and you could tell he was an absolute character. It must have been a bit of a handful for you. How do you manage like having the big characters in your dressing room? Because you had plenty.
I've never really particularly had a problem with big characters. I like big characters in the change zone. Big characters help build big teams. And they want managing a little bit different, you know. Carl was very headstrong, you know, we've got to manage him right. But Carl had run through brick walls for if you treat him right and he's in a team environment that he likes, he'll run through brick walls for you. Absolutely. And we had a few of them. Danny Hansen's a big character as well, and you know, Stefan Zoll was. You know, Stefan Zoll was a kickboxer in his spare time, and another big character, really good players. And then we had lots of people around the club. I mean, Andy Smith, who was my captain at the time. I mean, what a great player, Andy. He should have played higher, but funniest man you've ever come across in football. Steve O's always cheeky tapping. We just had really good characters everywhere in the team. And I didn't find that team hard to manage at all. It would just point them in the right direction, get them organised, keep them motivated, and let them go. You know, we had a good pattern of play. We had a good shape to us. We played some really good football. I remember bumping into somebody who played for another team, who'd been an ex-pro, I can't remember his name. And he said to me, he says, I prefer your team out of anybody else in the league. He says, because you can play football, but you can also mix it if it's time to mix it. And that team could. We were a big, strong team, but technically really good as well, and could score good goals. So I'm talking about the 2005-06 season. You know, that was a really good team with really big characters in it. I mean, it started from the back as well. We had a goalkeeper called Steve Hodgson. I mean, he was a Man City as a young keeper, and he was just brilliant. Absolutely great lad, fantastic goalkeeper. And I used to say to Jason, he's never cost us a goal. He never cost us a goal. He never dropped one. He never, when you see a ball going, you think, should have done better there, should have saved that, or should have kept hold of that. He never cost us a goal in all his time with us. And he pulled off one of the greatest saves I've ever seen at Hillsbury in the last minute from an header. It was an unbelievable save. So it started with Steve Hodgson at the back, and we had a good back four, we had good midfield players, good strikers and good wingers. You know, it's not rocket science. If you can put that lot together, you've got a chance.
Oh, fantastic. So I've heard a little story about you as I've been doing my research.
Okay.
It comes from Jazz Colliver.
Oh, yeah. Yes, yeah. I've had Jazz a few times, yeah. Another great lad.
So I've heard that no matter what happened after a result, no matter where you were in the country, you wouldn't allow anyone to leave. You weren't allowed to get back on the coach if there was one until 6 o'clock, so you could have so everyone could have a few drinks together. Is that true?
Absolutely true. Yes.
So what was the thinking behind this?
Well, to be honest with you, and we speak to managers today, who even in non-league, and they sort of harp for those days. The idea is that you drink together after a win or a defeat, you get out of the system there and then, get on the coach, have a good time on the way back, and then you're ready for the next game. So for me, it was part of the team bonding. We're a team. If you've gone to travel somewhere away from home on a coach, it's not just about just getting there, playing, getting back on the coach and going home. It's about spending time with each other and getting to know each other. And I used to say, when you go in the bar after a game and we had the Stocksbridge tracksuit on, it shouldn't matter which tracksuit you see. Well, you're not looking for your pal, you're not looking for your mate, you're looking for a Stocksbridge tracksuit. You're going to stand and have a drink with them. And that's how you help to build a team spirit. And we did that, and Stocksbridge. I didn't have many arguments at Stocksbridge about that with that team, I can assure you. So, yeah. I think it's to managers today, and they'd love to go back to them days. I remember my last few games at Frickley, and we played FC United away, and we went in the bar after. I was talking to Carl Morgensen, FC United manager, who's like me, same age as me, and there was me, Jason, my assistant, and my captain having a drink. All that, the rest of my players were on the bus. And I remember Carl, it was his assistant and his captain in bar, and all these lads had gone home. And it was like a bygone era. Us 6, 3 from each team was still having a drink in the bar, because that had gone out of the game by then. Whether it's right or wrong, that had gone out, and by all accounts, it's still out, that players want to get back and get out of their own thing. I think that's a shame. I think it's a massive part of non-league, is to stick together and have a drink together.
So we're going to get onto the thing that I think for this podcast, as it goes on, we have more things, is going to be our drinking game of when, as soon as you hear this person's name, take a drink, because it's probably going to happen, especially around this era. You were the person that gave Jamie Vardy his debut.
Yes.
It's the obvious question that everyone asks of anyone did you think he was ever going to do what he did?
It's $1 million question, that one. I can't take any credit for Jamie Vardy, and he wouldn't give me any, nor do I want any. Jamie was really young when I was there, and I had a really good team that was winning every week. So even though he played a few games, he didn't particularly shine, he didn't particularly do it. We had a good team anyway. I don't think he particularly settled into that team. I think his head were all over the place at that age. So I can't take any credit for Jamie, nor I've ever tried to. What I can take credit for is a tweet. You can't delete a tweet or put one in hindsight. A tweet, I think in 2012, where I put there's no level that Jamie Vardy can't play at. There's no boundary or ceiling to where he can go. And at that time, I think he was at Halifax. What you don't get at that age is when you see really good players in non-league, and I've seen lots, and everyone involved in non-league seen lots of really, really good players. And they don't get that break, they don't get that chance. And Jamie basically banged everyone's door down. You know, he got into the Stocksbridge team and was the best player in the league. He went to Halifax, best player. Went to Fleetwood, best player, you know, at Fleetwood or in that league. And then he went to Leicester and become their best player. He went to England and scored. Jamie didn't wait for people to sort of give him a chance. He just banged everyone's door down. So absolutely credit to him. But like I say, it's not something I can take any credit for. I wish I could. In fact, if anything, I'm the only man who's ever left him out. But he was only a young lad. And to be honest with you, I'll tell you a little story. He wasn't in our team. He'd been in and out and played a cup final in Millmore, one of the last games at Millmore. And we played aside from Doncaster. My old friend who was playing midfield with Dean Barrick, played for Wednesday and rather than what have you, he was playing for the team. And I sat in the stand and watched our reserves play. And Jamie Vardy was absolutely fantastic. Fantastic. And I rung Jason, assistant manager, on the way home and said, we've got to get Jamie involved next year. So I've just watched him and different level to what he were when we last saw him 4 or 5 months ago. Fantastic. And then we left 2 weeks later. So I did try to sign him for Worksop as well. They signed the contract. So yeah, obviously he is now, but like I say, I live by that tweet in 2012 when I said he's got no ceiling, that lad, because I didn't think he had a brilliant play.
I think you're the first person who's managed him who hasn't claimed you're the reason for all the success.
No, like I said, I wish I could, but I don't. And people ask me that all the time. You give him Vardy, and I always say I did. I can't take any credit for it. You know, I was out the door as I'd left as he came to the fore. To be honest.
But obviously, because he was in the reserves for a while, you know, playing in the Sheffield and Hallamshire League, which is just mad to think everything. Because I think a lot of people start the story when he started playing for the first team at Stocksbridge. No, he was at step 11 of the entire thing.
Absolutely, he was. And to be honest with you, when he played for us, he didn't really pull any trees up. He played a FA Cup game away for one, played once or twice, put him on as sub a few times. Didn't really, but nobody at the club was banging the drum either. You know, if you've got someone like him below in the reserves and what have you, or under 18, nobody was really banging the drum about him. And then he just sort of, from that period, from that Christmas, and just came onto the scene, and it's just been upwards all the way for him from then.
Because that was the question I was going to follow up with. Because was no one from the reserves or anyone in the club who watched reserves saying you should keep an eye on this lad, you should watch him because he's going to be the next big thing for you if you...
No, I'd watched him myself, so I'm not blaming anybody else at the club. He just, at that age, you know, it's about where you're at, isn't it? I didn't really know him personally, and it's where you're at in your life, isn't it? And I think he got to a stage where he sort of probably found himself at 18 or what have you, 17, 18. He was only a young lad when I had him. Sort of found himself, found his feet, and away he went. I mean, he got released from Sheffield Wednesday, didn't he? I think at 15, 16.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah. So, you'd like to say he was a late bloomer, but at 18, 19, he looked like he could take the world on. So something happened in that couple of years that got him going and moving. So credit to him.
So you mentioned it's about opportunity for players from non-league to get into the EFL and become professional either again or a time. Is there any other people you think that you manage that you think if they had been given a chance, if they had got that trial, that they could have gone on and had a productive professional career?
Yeah, few. Yeah, I think there were a kid I used to play with called John McFadden. He was a fantastic player. Didn't get his lifestyle right off the pitch, and that was his reason, but fantastic player. And Gary Townsend, which a lot of Stockbridge fans will have watched over the years, play for Worksop Town. Fantastic player. 6'2", light lightning, great left foot, can edit, pass it, score, both feet. Fantastic player. But Gary would, if we were sat here now, would say, yeah, we're good, but I didn't really want to do anything else. He just wanted to play with his mates and play for Worksop, and he was happy doing that. But fantastic player. I think you see it throughout non-league. Non-league players are good players. They've maybe got one thing missing that means that they don't go and play for Sheffield Wednesday or Sheffield United or Rotherham or whatever. But it's only sometimes some of them. It's only one thing. Apart from that, they're absolutely terrific. So yeah, there's a lot of good players in non-league, and they would not disgrace themselves would they give that step. I remember scouts watching Jamie Vardy, and I'm not going to name one, but I sat and stand with him, and he went, "He can't kick with his left foot, can't he?" I said, "What more are you looking for?" This was after I'd left out at Worksop, and what more are you looking for? The kid's got everything. And I think there's a bit of snobbery in football to give non-league players a chance. It's always, "Are they better than what we've got?" rather than actually saying, "Well, let's give them the opportunity to be better than what we've got." And I think that's held a few back. But I'm a big believer in you play at the level that you're good enough for. If you have a full career in non-league, you're good enough to be a non-league player. If you have a full career in Division 2, you're a Division 2 player. Jamie Vardy's good enough to be a Premier League and international, so that's where he's played. I don't particularly buy hiding behind whether he had a chance or not. I don't think there's a little bit of snobbery in league football for non-league players.
Do you think that might have changed a bit now? Because there are quite a few players from Stocksbridge itself have gone on to be professionals, and I think a few from the Worksop days did as well.
Yeah, there's always some, isn't there? You always hear some players who sort of make that move. So yeah, maybe they do. I don't know. I've just seen a lot of players where you think, maybe he would deserve a chance. There's always some reason why they don't.
So let's go back to 2007, and obviously that winning that Sheffield Senior Cup final. Obviously, it's not long afterwards. It might have been on the day. I'm not too sure of the timings. That it's announced that you're switching sides and you're heading over to the team you beat in that final. What was the thinking about that? Was why that was the time to leave, and why that was the time to take the Worksop job?
It's a good question. I think as a manager, like as a player, certainly as a manager, you want to compete. So when you've sort of built a good team, you want the chairman to be able to say to you, "We can back you now and push on." What we got at Stocksbridge is, obviously, we had a really good team and we were just losing players. We were losing players to Worksops and Gainsboroughs and all that. And you don't want to do that. You don't want to bring good players in and then just lose them. You want to be the manager buying their best players. Ambition-wise, I never wanted to leave Stocksbridge. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I loved working for Alan. I loved people around the club. It's a fantastic club. It was just time to move on. An opportunity came along at Worksop Town, which is a big non-league club with better wage bill. It means that you can go and compete. So it was sort of now or never. I'd played for Worksop. I'd been assistant manager there. All my in-laws are from Worksop. I've spent a lot of time in there over the years. And it was an opportunity I couldn't turn down. Having said that, the day that I went to Worksop was the first sort of nail in my managerial coffin, because it was, in hindsight, a totally wrong move for me at that time. It was the right club, wrong time. You might be aware that, first season we just took over a relegated club. I don't want to get in talking to Worksop. I'm aware it's a Stocksbridge.
Oh, you could talk about work. I'm sure Worksop fans might notice it and go, "Ooh, we're listening and see if we're mentioning." Just scanning across, waiting to hear Worksop mentioned.
Yeah. Well, Worksop had just got relegated, and I'd been used to Stocksbridge when we did a pre-season at Stocksbridge, where we had the first team. We used to train on the field side, and they'd be the first team training, then the reserves. You'd have the reserves a bit further down, and then there'd be under 8 teams down there, maybe a couple of junior teams. And there might be 80 players on that pitch on a Tuesday, Thursday night pre-season, and the whole club's getting ready for the season. And the first training session at Worksop was on a ground that we sort of just went on. We didn't have one to train on. We just sort of said, we'll go on that field there. And there was 8. We had 8 players, and I took 3 of them. So we had 5 players there. There was no structure to the club. There was no reserves, no under-19s. There was absolutely nothing. And then we lost the ground after a year as well. Howard Raymond decided to take the ground back. So I was, again, record books. I had 4 seasons at Worksop, and had 4 different home grounds. So I played at Sandy Lane, then Hucknall, then Ilkeston, and then Retford. So I only played at Sandy Lane once for 1 season, and we finished in 8th in the Premier, and did all right, ready to build. And then Wadesville got pulled, and ground got pulled, and it was a nightmare, to be fair, in the end. And it was sort of a dream turned into a nightmare. So leaving Stockbridge for Worksop, it seemed like a great moment in time. And if I had my time again, you'd probably still do it, because it's a good opportunity, but it wasn't the opportunity that we hoped. No fault of Worksop Towns, no criticism of them at all. It was the the ground got took away from us. Simple as that. And then the financial implication of that was, horrific.
We know that Worksop are back on their feet, doing really well. At the top end of the Northern Premier League, Premier Division, fighting out with Macclesfield at the moment. Are you quite pleased to see how well they've been able to recover
Absolutely
over the years?
delighted for them. Delighted for them. I like the chairman. I like people around the club. Absolutely delighted for them. It was for me. It was just wrong. Right club, wrong time, and couldn't really show them. What I could do. It was just a defensive 4 years of trying to keep the club afloat and trying to get to the next week, rather than trying to build something. We kept getting a wage bill and then getting that slashed in a wage bill, and we kept signing players, building a half-decent team, losing the whole team, and then trying to build another one. It was just a firefight for 4 years. And supporters, no respect to them, but supporters aren't bothered what's going on behind the scenes. They want to see a winning football team. We couldn't produce one. Off the field was disaster zone. So it was really difficult. And being, off from Worksop myself, a lot of family there, it was a really difficult time just to try and keep his head above the water. And I sort of carried it, you carry them problems as manager on your shoulders and with little help at that time.
So overall, if we look back on your managerial and coaching career, Stocksbridge, Worksop, Frickley as well, are you proud of all the years that you put into non-league football?
Yeah, I think there's some regrets there. Every job. I was ready for that. I thought I did a good job, a good solid job. We were very close to sort of greatness, if you like. I was ready for the Worksop job, and then that sort of went pear-shaped through. I'm not saying nothing was my fault, but no particular fault of my own. And I would beat after that. He sort of beat me up. I went to Frickley straight after Worksop, and I shouldn't have gone. That was a mistake. And they cut my wage bill within a few months. And I would beat. I'd had enough, and I just come out of it. And I think if Worksop would have been the right job, I would have stayed at Stockton and gone somewhere else. I think my career would have been a lot better. I think it was better than what I ended up being without sounding big-headed. I think what I did at Stockbridge, I could have done somewhere else with a better wage bill, given the opportunity. That didn't really have it. And a friend of mine who I'm not naming him, I'm not embarrassing, but he bought a non-league club. He's only a friend of mine who used to be a director for one of the clubs that I managed at, and he bought a non-league club. And he met me on the motorway at the service station, and he said, I want you to come and manage my club. And I just said to him, I said, how much money are you putting in? And he said, I'm putting in about £80,000 of my own money this year, hopefully a bit less next year, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to do this, we're doing this, we're building this. And I said to him, I said, look, if you're putting £80,000 in, on the other side of this table, you need a really hungry manager who can absolutely live it 24/7 and do a good job for you. I said, and I'm not that person anymore. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I'd have absolutely snatched your hand off. I said, but I'd be sort of nicking your money because I'm done. And I was mentally finished, to be fair, and I come out and I've spent 20 years in non-league and I've barely been to a non-league ground since I left. And without any real regrets, I had an opportunity, not naming times and what have you, to go back to Stockbridge. And it was over for me, to be honest. Worksop beat me up, and then Frickley as well. And I just thought, I don't need this. We don't get paid enough for the pressure that we're under. You need to be able to have a chance. So I'd had enough, really, and I've come out and I have no regrets on what's happened. And my time at Stocksbridge, like I say, I've enjoyed reliving it because it was a fantastic team. And I enjoyed my time at Worksop to a certain extent. You just got to get stuck in. But I'm glad to be out and never wanted to go back in. People think when you're out of work, football manager, that you're looking for jobs. Well, nobody can accuse me of that. So I've never been to a non-league ground since. It was over for me. And I've really enjoyed the junior stuff. I've enjoyed managing. My Rotherham team won the Cup at Hillsborough a couple of years ago, which was nice. My son playing Rotherham under 14s. York's Cup final at Hillsborough, we won that. So that was nice. We won the Yorkshire League the year after. So we've had a bit of success, in junior football, which I've really enjoyed. And my Rotherham under girls are currently top of Yorkshire League under 13. So we're not quite done yet.
And that does seem to have just reinvigorated your love for the sport and the love of management.
It has actually, yeah. I've really enjoyed it. It's something I've never thought I'd ever, coach or manage again. And it's only for fun. You still put pressure on yourself because you've got standards that you want to keep. But I've really enjoyed it. Good fun. The girls' side's really good. Love managing them. Girls' football. I mean, my daughter plays at Sheffield United Academy at a good level, and the girls' football is just. If you're not watching it, you don't understand what's going off in girls' football. Because it's absolutely amazing, the standard of the elite girls. Not they haven't got the depth yet. But actually, I watched Sheffield United play Aston Villa and Manchester City, and Aston Villa and Manchester. I mean, the players on show are absolutely fantastic. And the next generation of girls is going to be something else. So that's been really good to learn about girls football, and I've watched more girls football than enough. Really enjoy it. It's fantastic.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, we do have this other little feature that we like to finish everything off with. It's called, we haven't got a catchy name for it yet because we're still relatively new to this. So right now it's just called Free People. We're just going to name 3 people you've worked with, play with. It'll depend on whoever we're talking to, and just a chance to talk to them. We actually have mentioned quite a few of these people already. So the first one will be the person that you worked under as a manager, Paul Mitchell.
Paul.
He was like.
I mean, Paul's a friend as well, long time friend, great manager, unbelievable character. Laugh a minute, but really took his football serious. Done really, really well at Sheffield United as head of recruitment. Still in touch. We had a drink with him a few weeks ago. So yeah, really, really good.
Because you are a big Sheffield Wednesday fan.
I am.
Is it irritating knowing that someone you were very close to in football built that Chris Wilder side that basically made them become the top team in Sheffield again?
Yeah, I do say that to him as well. Mitch were a Wednesdayite as well. Paul's a Wednesdayite. So he sort of went to the dark side.
As a Wednesday fan myself, that hurts. Can't
really forgive him, but, we've got to live with it, haven't we? Till March.
Yeah, we'll get our own back then. Another one, we mentioned him already, but someone, if I were right, who worked as your assistant as well as played under you, Jazz Colliver.
Jazz was a great lad. Good player as well. He was one who, if he had... he won't forgive me for saying it, but if he had a bit of pace about him, he'd have played at a really good level, Jazz, because he was good in air, good ready to tackle as well, good passer, good crosser. Really good player, good lad, really well organised lad. He got into managing and coaching himself, and he was one who you would have put down to do that. Yeah, good lad.
So, and finally, again, it's someone else we mentioned, and because he's the current manager of Stocksbridge, Ian Richards. Yeah,
Ian, I knew Ian would be a good manager. Organised, fit, ready for it. I think clever lad. I'm sure I know he's doing a good job. But yeah, absolutely, we were never in a doubt that Ian would go into coaching and management one day. Really good player for me as well. We took him in on that right hand side of 4, which left Dave Cockle to be out more loose left, and he did that semi-job of winger come midfield player, and did a lot of miles that people didn't see to keep out the shape that we had Andy Smith going outside him at right back, and he did a really, really, really good job for me in that role that, not the most coveted, but did a really good job. Really good lad. I'm pleased. I've spoke to him for a while, but spoke to him when he first got a job, wished him all the best, and I know he'll do a good job. You're in good hands.
I think a few of his players will be listening to this because they've all got quite excited at the idea of a podcast. Is there anything that maybe did he ever get into trouble with you when he was a player?
No. I can't. If any players are listening, I can't give them much gossip. To be fair, on Ian, model professional. Professional.
They are going to be gutted.
He was fit as in changing room, fit as a fiddle, ate the right stuff. Yeah, he was ultimate professional. I'm sorry, I wish I could diss the dirt, but I can't.
Oh, well, Peter, this has been absolutely fantastic. It's been great to go down memory lane with you. Remember those times from, God, it's almost 20 years ago now.
I can't believe the time. I know, like I said, when coming on here, I sort of did a bit of homework, went back through, and I've really enjoyed reliving it, thinking about all them great players that I had and, everybody around the club. And I'll definitely make an effort to come up and see Ian and the players and everyone behind the scenes, hopefully this season sometime. And come and meet you as well.
Yes, nice to see each other in person rather than just little green lines bobbing up and down on a screen.
Absolutely.
No, well, Thank you very much, Peter. I think hopefully everyone is at home and wherever they're listening to this have enjoyed it as well, because I certainly enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me on, Adam.
No problem. Thank you very much, Peter Rinkcavage.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to Peter Rinkcavage for taking the time out of his day to talk to me about his time with Stocksbridge. We hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you want to hear more, please subscribe or follow us on the podcast provider of your choice, or the ones we're currently on. We'll be back for another episode of Steels Talk in a fortnight, so we'll see you then for another great chat about Stocksbridge history or anything else. Thank you.